And I want you guys to think about it in relation to your own life. Your role as a leader is to create more leaders. Because people around you are looking for a model for them to follow, not just what you say, but an example to follow. And today I want to specifically focus on one area. And the reason why I picked this area, because this is the overall theme that keeps coming up. It keeps coming up for pretty much almost most of my clients. Most people are not very good at this just because they're trained to think a certain way, not because they're inherently not good at this. And including me, I've had to work on this, and there are times I still work on this area. And the distinction, I didn't create this distinction. Actually, this distinction came from Brendan Burchard. I want to give him credit in his book, The Charge. One of the chapters he covers around this is called Caretaker versus Caregiver. And it's a very important concept, and I want you guys to think about it in relation to your own life. So what is it? The best way for me to explain this is to tell you guys about that quote that almost everybody might have heard is, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, and teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So what does that mean? That means that most of us, and that's the distinction between caretaker and caregiver, most of us actually are trained to be caretakers. That means that we're constantly giving people fish. And fish can show up in all sorts of ways. Fish can show up in the day-to-day when my child asks me, can I get a glass of water? I was like, okay, I'll give it to you. Can I get a glass of water? And then eventually they become dependent on me. Versus, hey, you're sitting right there. Can you go grab your own glass of water? Or help teaching somebody to clean their room versus doing it for them. One of the things I remember as a child, it was a big frustration my mom had when I was growing up. I was not the cleanest or most organized person in the world. And she always complains, like, you never clean your room. In fact, I was famous for that. But while she would complain about that, and I understand her frustration fully, and especially looking back, because I was completely messy, like to an extreme. While she would complain about that, she would come in my room and clean everything. And she would do that over and over and over. So subconsciously, the message that I got is like, I don't need to worry about that. She's going to clean it anyway after about a day or two. Now, in business, it shows up in this way. So I've worked with teams a lot of times where, and it's so subtle, you don't notice it. I've worked with teams, for example, whether it's in multifamily or other businesses, where with partners, I've noticed when partners work together, there's usually one person where they're not taking a responsibility for their own, for their part of their role in the company. And pretty much everybody else is cleaning up after them. And people are covering for him or her. They're not showing up to do the project, to move forward the projects they were supposed to. They're not clearly asking for support. They're not moving things in a timely fashion, but everybody else around them is kind of trying to pick up after them in the name of, let me support this person. But what they're really doing a lot of time is holding the company back. The same dynamic shows up in our personal life. When we're not, when we see in a family, there's always somebody who might be struggling, or they might not be supporting the family in a positive direction, whether that's a kid in the family or a parent or whoever it might be, it doesn't matter. They're showing up in a way that's irresponsible, which means that they're not actually taking care of their role, but everybody else is cleaning up after them. Very common thing. This is not me. I'm going to quote somebody. So this is George Carlin, one of my favorite comedians. If you've ever heard anything from George Carlin, you know he's very direct. So he's like, in every family, there's an asshole. If you don't know who that is, it's probably you. If you don't know who that is, probably you. So again, it's not about pointing fingers. It's also noticing what is the impact we have on other people, because there might be things we're doing that might not be as great as we think we are. So, for example, whenever I'm interviewing people, or for my company or for somebody else's, or if I'm assessing somebody for a specific position or whatever, I look for, when something happens, when something goes wrong, do they take responsibility or do they blame? When something goes wrong, are they open to having a difficult conversation, or they kind of work around that? that usually determines how they operate in the day-to-day life. So how much responsibility do they take? Do they deal with problems head on? So coming back to that distinction around caretaker and caregiver, and I want to share about 4 things for us to pay attention to for you to show up more as a caregiver. The first one is actually the intention behind it. The intention always is, whenever you do something for people, ask yourself this: are you going to empower this person or disempower this person? So what does that mean? That means that whether you do something for your child or to your spouse or with your spouse or with your team member or with your partner, are you empowering them as a leader themselves, or are you disempowering them? Are you helping them build character, skill sets, awareness, or are you just making them dependent on you? That's also my value around a coach as well. My role as a coach is not to forever be a coach for somebody. My role as a coach is to help people develop awareness, skill sets, ability to lead, ability to move forward in their own way. And I hope that at some point they become a leader. And they usually, most of my clients are leaders, but they become better leaders in their own right, in their home, in their community, and their organizations. So I'm there as long as I can support that person get to that point. And there are times where my clients go off and do incredible things, and a lot of times I partner up with them. At other times they go off and do bigger things. But my role as a leader and as a coach is to empower my clients to help them build skill sets, awareness, and the ability to lead others, the ability to create what they want to create. And actually, your role as a leader is to empower other people around you to become leaders. And that's actually one of the biggest value adds you can have. This is why, and this is from the servant leadership model that says that your role as a leader is to create more leaders, not for you to lead others. It's actually to create more leaders around you. That could be with your team, that could be with your children, that could be even with your partners, whether it's life partner or business partner. So my question is, are you checking in with that intention? Every action you take, the way you treat this person, the way you connect with them, are you empowering them or disempowering them? Again, we're all going to do a mix of those. I don't pretend to be perfect in this area. I struggle with this area at times. I don't do the most empowering things in my personal life and professional life. Half the time I'm hitting myself in the head. Why did I say that? Why would I approach it this way? But that iterative, we will have thousands of opportunities to correct, self-correct, and adjust and improve. And that's the whole point. The point is that we're looking to improve, we're looking to grow. We're not looking to be perfect. So ask yourself, that first intention is, are you empowering those around you? And the second one that's connected to that is, are you supporting them for success? And this is, I think this was, some people like him, some people don't. Jordan Peterson talks about this. He talks about children. He's like, don't allow your kids to do things that will make you despise them, or to some degree like that, or that will make you hate them. As in, don't set your kids up for failure in their role as children, which means that you're going to have to call out what they're doing, which means that you're going to have to be tough at times. Same thing with your partners. I don't think this is that different from there. Like, whether it's your life partner or business partner or core team, whoever that is, don't allow them to set them up for success, which means that give them the tools, the awareness, but also the next step is challenge them. And this is the third one, is challenge. And the one thing that's hard to do as a leader is to challenge those around us. Some people are better at this. Some people have to learn it. To be honest, I've had to learn that. I've not been the best at this area. I've grown up with people around me that were more passive. So I don't like confrontation. I don't like conflict. Interestingly, most of the things that has helped my clients and myself has been dealing with conflict, which means that how good are you on a scale of 1 to 10 in challenging those around you? Which means that if you have a business partner or a team member or an employee or somebody around you who's not fulfilling their role, are you challenging them? You don't have to challenge them in an unkind way, but are you doing it in a kind way? Which means that, hey, I think you're better than that. I see you've been doing you've been approaching this problem in this way. I really think that you're better than that. How can I support you to do this better? That could be one of the ways to approach it, but a lot of people connect challenging others with conflict, and we all want to avoid conflict because conflict brings pain for a lot of us, unless you see it with a different lens. I think conflict is actually essential a lot of times to growth. That doesn't mean that fight. It just means that, or arguments. It just means that there's tension is a requirement of growth. Struggle is a requirement of growth, which means that for you to deal with difficult situations, things that are not easy to deal with, you're going to have to be okay with challenging those around you. If for example, in our own homes, like it's hard to run a home, forget about a business. Like with me and my wife, there's so much to do. We have little kids that like we have to challenge ourselves. Like, hey, did you do this thing? You said that you were going to do it. Did you actually do it? No, it completely slipped my mind. Okay, how can we set it up better so we can do this in the future? So, for example, cooking was and food was a huge issue in my household. So, how do we do this with my wife being busy? I'm busy. How do we run this through? Cleaning is a big issue. How do we do that as a family? Do we hire people? Do we delegate it? Do we have a better process along with all the other responsibilities? Same thing happens with business. Like, whose role and responsibility? Like, when I'm working with teams, one of the clear things that you understand is most people are not clear about their roles and responsibilities. They will say that they will have a title, but title is not the same thing as specific roles or responsibilities and metrics. Are they following through? And is the team keeping them aligned, accountable to those things that and accountable doesn't mean punishing them. It just means that they've taken on responsibility. Are they presenting that responsibility that's actually moving forward, or they're making excuses for that? Do they need support to move that responsibility, that role forward? And are we supporting them in that process? So again, being open to challenge as a leader, and also being open to be challenged by others. So again, the kind of leader who's open to feedback. Again, one of the things that I always want to know in leaders, are you open to feedback, and what is your process for asking for feedback? Do you actually go out of your way proactively to ask feedback from your kids, from your life partner, from your business partners, from your colleagues, from your friends? Hey, how when I do this, how does that make you feel like? How do you think I approached that situation? Could I have done a better job? And when you look at bigger companies, they usually have process for feedback. They collect anonymous feedback a lot of times, or they collect feedback in one-on-one conversations for leaders and for other people, because it helps us get rid of blind spots. Because a leader can clearly have blind spots. If you study enough history, you find out that some of the most amazing leaders that we consider, that we follow, that we watch what they have done, and they have a net positive outcome, but they've made some major mistakes. They've thrown off organizations and communities, and if they had better feedback before, they would have done a better job, and they will admit it themselves. But again, how proactive were they? And this is why a lot of leaders, when they grow, they realize that, you know what, I can't figure out all this on my own. This is the whole idea behind having a board of governors. This is the idea around having a system where not one person, one dictator doesn't make all the decisions, because we know that the humans make mistakes, no matter how great they are. So what is your feedback process? And that's the fourth one, where do you model this process? Do you model being okay to be challenged by those around you? Do you model asking for support from those around you? Do you ask for that? Do you model having an intention to empower others versus disempower? Because people around you are looking for a model for them to follow, not just what you say, but an example to follow. And it circles back around, and I want you to consider it specifically in your relationships. What's happening in your personal life? What's happening in your professional life, in your business, in your job? How do you deal with people? Are you always trying to please them because that's a nice thing to do? Or are you being kind? Kind means you might have to be assertive. You might have to be harsh at times. Harsh in a kind way, which means that you might have to give direct feedback. Some of the best feedback that I've gotten in the past years of my life has been very feedback that hurt me in the moment, but it helped me in the long term. So How are you dealing with the people around you? Are you empowering them or disempowering them? Do you even have an intention, or are you automatically showing up as a leader? And that one of the biggest challenge for leaders is that they don't have influence because they hope that just by the way they are, they will have positive influence. No, you need to set an intention for that. Are you challenging those around you? Are you setting them up for success by asking them what kind of support they need? Or are you modeling the way for them to operate like that as leaders? And if you're not doing these things, more than likely you're taking care of people and they're full becoming dependent on you versus doing their showing up as leaders in their own right. And that's a question I want you to ask throughout the weekend. On Thursday, what we're covering is we're going deeper into this idea of caring. Caring a lot of times means to empower others. Caring means that I care enough for you to grow. Caring means that I care enough for me to bite my tongue in this moment and allow you to make mistakes. Caring means that I push you a little bit, I challenge you a little bit. It doesn't always mean pleasing the other person. And people have a weird association with that because we've just been trained like that. And we're going to go much deeper. We're going to talk about how your level of presence in your life, because that's incredibly important, your intentions, how you're showing up with those around you, whether it's your team, your business team, your family, whoever, and how are you setting those boundaries around you. All that stuff becomes important. So we're going to go deeper into this Thursday, but I'd love to hear, what was your biggest insight as you hear this? If you can just put in the chat, and then we'll go into the audio and video mode. What was your biggest insight around all the things that I covered today around caregiver versus caretaker? And if you want to take this training further, download your free Unlock Your Legacy Life Power Pack at faisalinsan.com. You should be able to find the link right below. Take care. Bye.